Right. Truth time. TruthWire. We're in the house, guys. Thank you so much for joining the show, everybody. I am here. Of course, it's TruthWire time. Could we bring my co-host in? She's there. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Craig Pasta Jaradula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And this is the TruthWire. We want you to do us a favor and do a like, do a share. It seems like we've gotten a slow start. I don't know what's going on with my Twitter. Something's going on. They're not.
I can't share my Twitter.
Something's going on.
It's not letting me start. It's not letting me share it.
I don't know.
So that's weird.
It's weird, and it's been acting weird like that lately too. I don't know what Elon's doing on over there too. It says I'm live, but it doesn't have the thing I can share. I guess I could if I click on it and do whatever, and then we're all big. What? It doesn't even look like it's formatted right. Are we? What's going on?
It's like a new thing that they're doing, I guess.
I don't know. It's like formatted for like a phone, and now it's paused. I don't.
But it looks really weird. It looks really weird. I don't like what they've done.
What are they doing?
Illustration. They're sucking. Maybe that's why people aren't getting like the notifications or something, because it's definitely dropped since I started using the X for live. Is it paused?
Are we paused?
On your end?
On my Twitter or just on my end, period?
It looks like it's paused on Twitter or something. It's weird.
Yeah, like I said, it's weird on Twitter right now. Okay. But I'm awfully close, so I'm going to back away a little bit so you don't look like a tiny person and I don't look like a giant. How's that? Better? Jayme, how do I look? My hair is all gutzed. It's Freaky Friday. I'm trying to get out there to the beach, fam. It's nice beach weather out here.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get rolling. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about today. We've been talking about Epstein all week, but we did have the whole Pam Bondi meltdown on Wednesday. I think that happened on Tuesday. Did it happen on Wednesday? I think it happened on Wednesday. So it happened on the day we were doing the show, so we didn't get to share it. But there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. We're going to talk a little bit about Venezuela today, I'm assuming, right? We're talking a little bit about Zelensky. So we're going to talk about anything on Cuba too, fam. We're going to have something on Cuba.
I mean, I didn't add it in there. We just had a lot of things. But Mexico was able to send that shipment of humanitarian aid, and there's going to be a flotilla to Cuba. No oil. No. Yeah.
There's a bunch of flotillas I saw going out to Cuba too as well, fam. So I think Code Pink's doing their thing, always.
It's not Code Pink. It's like Progressive International and a bunch of people.
There's some Code Pinkers jumping on there then. They're getting involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of activists.
Bunch of activists.
Involved. Yeah.
Some of the activists we don't even agree with all the time, but we definitely love it when they do stuff like that. So that's going to be interesting. So next week we're going to have a slew of shows. But on Tuesday on the Pasta to Go channel, I am going to have 3 guests on. 2 are definitely booked and confirmed. A guest talking about Somalia, which is going to be very interesting, and a guest talking about Pakistan. Someone who's close, Dr. Salman Ahmad. He's been on. I had him on Jimmy's show when I was doing that show. He's going to be on the show. He actually played cricket with Imran Khan, and there's a lot of stuff going on, fam. I don't know if you saw the clip recently, but there's I think it was a Pakistani foreign minister kind of going after the United States a little bit, and saying how things are going bad over there. They still have Imran Khan in jail, and people aren't crazy about that. So we're gonna dive into what's going on over there. The guy from Somalia, his name, I want to say it right, and I have to look at it. Boya J. Farah. He's got a Substack, got a decent amount of followers on it over there. It's pretty cool. He's a grassroots activist. He's a Somali. So we're going to talk to him on Tuesday to get a little kind of idea about what's going on in Somalia. I think a lot of people aren't putting the pieces together. The fact that this Somalia fraud thing got so hyped up by the conservatives, the populist right, it made that guy Nick Shirley, is because they want to manufacture consent to continue to bomb them and to regime change them. I think we'll get some information on what's going on with Somaliland. So there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that, a lot to talk about with Venezuela, a lot to talk about with Pakistan. But, fam, let's get rolling with the Epstein stuff. Before we get rolling, do you want to, after the whole Pam Bondi stuff, I know you didn't watch it all. I know you wouldn't torture yourself, but I'm sure you peeked at it enough here and there. Do you have any just initial thoughts before we get rolling and that you want to talk about when it comes to Epstein?
I mean, I think I've said it all already. Like, we talked about this years ago. A lot of the stuff coming out is just additional things that I think everybody should look at if you have the time. Specifically that website, that Jayme website, it shows you everything, every picture, everything that they have. But there's a lot of distractions. It's a lot of red tape around it. Like, we're not getting the full story. We're getting something that is specifically picked and specifically being laid out for us. And the people who are guilty are never going to go to jail. And like I said last week, you still have people defending Chomsky, defending Epstein, going against the victims. You still have people pretending this isn't a big deal. And I think a lot of people have exposed themselves through this and really, and their entire work is in question. I think, for if you're being honest about what this is. And like I said, we talked about the Mossad ties years ago. That is a fact. That is not some sort of conjecture. It's not even up for discussion.
Yeah.
But I do think that Pam Bondi is simply a soldier that is there to portray a certain narrative, and that's what she's doing. I mean, she's doing her job. That's what she was hired to do. She really wasn't hired to work for us. She was hired to promote a certain narrative, and that's what she's going to do. So I think people are finally seeing that people thought that maybe, especially some of the MAGA, that thought there was going to be accountability with this administration regarding Epstein, have come to a very, very interesting conclusion that that's not the case. There's a lot of hypocrisy around that. There's a lot of people bending over backwards, doing mental gymnastics to excuse Trump for what's happening when they shouldn't. And there's a lot of Democrats that are exploiting the situation as well. And we know that they're not the answer. So our bashing of how this administration has responded is more so bashing of the entire system. We're not akin to or supportive of the Democratic Party either. But again, this is just part of the bigger picture. So why don't you go ahead and dive into this, since
let's do that. And a lot of people are mentioning the fact, and I think you hit it on the nose, fam, that she wasn't hired to take care of us or look out for us. She was hired to work for the administration. And that was almost an impossible job she has, an impossible task she has, right? They were never going to release the names of the people who use children as currency. And I think right now, the thing that's unraveling the most is not it's not Donald Trump being named in these drops, right, that are so damaging. I think a lot of people who support Trump or even independents might even not believe what's in those drops. Some of them do, some of them don't. But it's the fact that he's part of the cover-up, so he is either an elitist or he's doing their dirty work for it. At the end of the day, I think that's the thing that's most damaging. Here's Pam Bondi. I mean, what do you say to get people off this? You keep yelling the same lies of, oh, this is a Democratic hoax, and they just don't want to talk about all our accomplishments. Here's Sam Bondi the other day on the floor. So,
Pam,
in the hearing.
yeah.
The Dow right now is
the Dow.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
The Dow.
I mean, she is like Donald Trump in a wig. She's just screaming. You know what I'm saying? She even put the Republican talking point inside the argument. Oh, it's the Dow, which means your 401k is going to be good. So even if you're not invested in the stock market, it's still helping you. It's still helping your 401k. And I mean, it's sad. The Dow.
I mean, this was the most mocked part of her thing, and it's just ridiculous. And it's not just ridiculous because the victims are there and people are there to talk about Epstein, and she's clearly trying to divert attention away from the subject at hand. But it's also ridiculous because it doesn't land anyway with people, because the majority of people are struggling in the United States. Unemployment continues to rise. The inflation rate is out of control. You will see businesses that have completely been destroyed when you go to the United States. Houses aren't selling. There's a lot of layoffs. People are constantly talking about how they're having to get second jobs, or they're being laid off and they're having to do this or that. I mean, the economy is not doing well, and it is like, if you look at the percentage of like a global economy, that is not always a good indicator or marker with how the majority of people that are not investors or involved in high level business transactions are doing. And the high level business transactions and the global output doesn't always translate, and in fact mostly doesn't translate to what the people in these countries are feeling, and specifically in the United States. But what we're seeing now is a global, I would say, a global depression throughout most of the world. We're seeing inflation everywhere. We're seeing economic decline. We're seeing a lot of just uncertainty, both in not just in politics, but also economically. And I think the only country that is probably not seeing as much of that is China. And that is a reality, because everybody has become extremely dependent on all of the Chinese exports. And there is a fear of that coming from the United States. And I think a recognition of the fact that this is happening. The dollar is not as strong. I'm here in South America. The dollar is not so strong anymore. It doesn't buy you as much, and definitely not in Moscow. So all of this falls on her when she's saying, but the Dow, the average Joe that is literally, spending $100 at the grocery store and buying very little for it, does not give two shits about the Dow. You don't know, you don't have your pulse on the average person that is there, on top of the fact that they already feel indignified and angry at you because you are manipulating, and you have manipulated the release of the Epstein files, and you are covering the names of a lot of these people, and you are trying to quickly move on from it. When people see this as a representation of our government, a lot of these people are involved in our government. They're involved in industries that are very important, like the entertainment industry, the banking industries, and you're protecting them. And it feels like this administration, to many who supported it, is protecting these pedophiles, is protecting these sex traffickers. And so you're trying to kind of divert from that, and it makes it worse because who are you talking to right now? You're talking to nobody. You're talking as a talking head, shouting slogans, and it just rings not only as ignorant, but also as just completely vile and disrespectful to the public.
So the next one is the Instagram post with the survivors, because this is what it's all about, right? Like at the end of the day, you know, Democrats can say what they want. They're going to weaponize everything. They're going to weaponize this situation. We'll go over some of their weaponization and play it. But when it comes to the majority of the people who have walked away from this administration and given up and thrown their hands up or are ready to, it's about this, the ignoring of these people.
In an interview last week, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche
You can't go off script.
said that any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. Well, thanks to the incredibly brave people sitting here behind you, we can actually ask them if that's true. Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and estimate and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses to talk to. Gentleman's time has expired. In an interview,
that's the stuff that's just so beyond damaging, right? It's one thing to say the Democratic Party is saying this. It's another to say that Trump's enemies within are saying that. But when the survivors are standing up and going, hey, yeah, nobody's contacted us. We've reached out. Nobody said anything. That is beyond damaging because it just lends more credence to the fact that this is a big global cover-up and Donald Trump is at the helm of it, right? And I also just got to say, too, really quickly before I pass it on, it also, when she goes, he can't go off script, Donald Trump's energy, attitude, and rhetoric has run its course. It might have sounded good when it was Joe Biden being so stupid and the Democrats going way out of their way to fuck things up, and Donald Trump might have sounded okay but saying these things. But now people are saying, man, holy shit, I supported this guy. I supported this administration, this Pam Bondi. This is what I supported. He sounds like a 7-year-old. She sounds like a child. And there were some people screaming it all along, right? But it's run its course now, fam. I mean, this is going to be the free fall from this point on. It is over. It doesn't make a difference what happens with ICE. It doesn't make a difference how many immigrants he deports, even though the majority of people in his base still think the number one issue is immigrants, right? He's still going to lose such a significant chunk. And also, independents, they're going to completely walk away. This is the end for him right here, fam.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll always have the people that are loyal to him, but obviously in terms of as a whole, the party, this sector has collapsed and has been collapsing for a while. And that only gives, of course, impetus for the Democratic Party to come in and rescue people, and people will once again fall hook, line, and sinker for this. This is why I think we're going to see a foreign policy shenanigans with Trump trying to come out as a peacemaking president in regards to Ukraine. But, you know, in terms of this very thing, this was a huge issue for a lot of the MAGA, and they've completely fallen flat on it entirely. I mean, this was one of the main reasons people voted for him, and he has failed a lot of these people, and I don't think he's going to get them back because this is such a significant issue for those people.
I want to discuss another man scene said that could not have been. You need to interview this witness.
Sorry. Next in the doc, Jayme, go ahead and go with that too as well. I mean, but put the question up. The question I put up there, true or false, fam? conservatives or the popular rights folks who are more upset that Trump is part of the cover-up than his name being mentioned in the last drop. That's something I said in the beginning of the show. I wonder if you feel that way. I wonder if you feel that maybe what's been said about him is more damaging, but I think the fact is that when people see that they're not even talking to witnesses at this point now, that this is nothing more than a big cover-up, and when he sent those right-wing influencers out there with the binders, right, it was nothing more than a lie. So I just want to know your opinion about this. Is this not the cover-up, the thing that's going to do him in, or is it the drops? Do you still think the drops of what they said, that people buy that stuff and believe it?
No, I think it's the way they're acting. I think you're absolutely right, because I think the drops, again, you can see people in photos with Jeffrey Epstein. That doesn't prove that they were, a part of the Lolita Express, that they were a part of this whole trafficking scheme. The emails more so prove, like, correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein, like we've seen with Chomsky and others. That more so signals a lot, because that signals a relationship, a correspondence. You can follow the tracks of that. You can follow the money exchanges from that. But with regards to Trump, we've only seen a few photos. We haven't really seen, so much of his actual involvement with Epstein. So I don't even think it's sad. I think it's the fact that they're acting like they're guilty by trying to quickly move on from it, and by insulting the public's intelligence by pretending nothing is happening, that everything is normal. Yeah. And people, especially these people who questioned all of this, don't like that. It backfired on them.
Now, one of the other clips that went pretty viral was Ted Lieu. That's Fam's favorite congressman in California. We know Santa Monica, right? I think he is. I believe. I could be wrong. I don't. Ted Lieu's district. He's somewhere in the LA County area, and he does make a point here, and he does, put the heat on her. But at the end of the day, I don't think the Democrats really care about the survivors. I think they're more concerned with just going after Donald Trump and the Republicans. Here's Ted Lieu.
Love this. I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files, like former Prince. Here's a video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files.
I'm reclaiming my time. I got your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Chairman, please stop the clock.
Stop the clock. The legislation. This is
time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell.
Right in hell, and anybody who tells children with him and stuff. Notice he's talking about, he did mention Prince Andrew, right, as well, because they can throw him to the curb. But he didn't mention Bill Clinton, Pam.
Yeah.
So even though this was one of those exchanges where, and once again, what is Pam Bondi supposed to do? Like, this is a tough job she was given. You didn't interview the witness. You're going to look like a fucking idiot. You're part of the cover up because you're not even going in and digging and trying to find out who the culprits are. You're just trying to cover it up. But the question is, fam, are the Democrats, true or false, are they more concerned about taking down Trump than they are about obtaining justice for the survivors?
Absolutely. You can tell from Ted Lieu's questioning that he's hyper-focusing on Trump. He's showing videos of Trump. But again, these videos show him talking to Epstein. A lot of people talk to Epstein. That's the thing. A lot of these people, Epstein was the guy that everybody knew, kind of like P. Diddy. He's the guy that had he was well connected. I know people like that in real life. I mean, a lot of us, who connect in media circles know a lot of the same people. Like, it's just, unfortunately, it becomes a partisan thing, and it shouldn't be. It should be about the victims. But if it is about the victims, then you need to also have the Clintons testify, which I believe Hillary is actually supposed to.
I think Bill is too.
Go before this. How are they going to treat them? Are they going to treat them differently? That's left to be seen, right? If they are just as adamant with them as they have been with Bondi and as they are about Trump, then okay, that's different. But I see that there is an opportunity here for the Democrats to kind of come in like they're innocent, when we very well know that many of the liberal politicians are just as guilty as the conservative ones. And, if Trump has to answer, so do the others that have been implicated. They too have to answer. And that will tell us if they're being serious or not. Right?
Yeah. So the final part I got of this too, because I don't want to spend all day with this. I'd rather get to some of the other issues today. We're talking about Venezuela and then Russia. We haven't even got caught up over there. What is the most damaging thing that can come of this right now, fam? Because to tell you the truth, my personal opinion is, and hello to Craig Williams in the chat, thank you for jumping on by, is that the drops sometimes aren't as damaging as understanding how Epstein was created, how he was made. Back in the days when we were doing this work, you know what I'm saying? It was really hard to find a lot of this stuff. It wasn't all over Twitter. You were literally going on Q drops and QAnon and 4chan stuff and then investigating from there. And it was really tough. But now when people start looking at this and they say, oh my God, this is with his accusations. Let me learn more about this guy, Jeffrey Epstein. Play the first video in the top left-hand corner, Jayme. Now they're doing children's songs to all this stuff. And when people understand how Jeffrey Epstein is made, that top left one, 402, that's more damaging, because then they understand that there's a society within a society, that there's a ruling class that's above everything else, that we are just nothing but lab rats to them. Make that one big. Take a look at this one. Now this will explain everything about Jeffrey Epstein. Here we go.
I'm curious about a kid from Brooklyn named Jeffrey Epstein. I skipped 2 grades, graduated at 16, got into an elite math program at NYU, dropped out, and then at 21 was hired to teach physics at the most exclusive private school in Manhattan without a degree. The headmaster was Donald R. OSS veteran, precursor to the CIA, who wrote a novel about elites keeping humans as sex slaves, and who just happens to be the father of William Barr, the attorney general who would oversee the jail where Epstein died 45 years later. Small world. One of those students at the Dalton School where Epstein taught was the daughter of Bear Stearns CEO Alan Greenberg. Epstein told people that relationship got him his Wall Street job. Fired from teaching for poor performance, hired on Wall Street the next day. At Bear Stearns, he rose from junior floor assistant to advising the bank's wealthiest clients, including Edgar Bronfman, president of Seagram's, who would later co-found something called the Mega Group, along with Leslie Wedner and Ronald Lauder, a secret network of billionaire donors coordinating pro-Israel strategy. He joined the Rockefeller University Board, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations. David Rockefeller personally mentored him. A college dropout from Coney Island, at the table with the man who built the global capitalist infrastructure. It seems that many were fascinated or impressed by Epstein and his connections, which helped him become even more connected. A defense contractor named Douglas Lee's and Nixon's former Attorney General John Mitchell introduced him to Stephen Hoffenberg, who says Lee's recruited Epstein for British intelligence, and Hoffenberg introduced him to Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell, media mogul who sold stolen surveillance software called Promise for the CIA and Mossad, document an intelligence asset whose daughter would move to New York and partner with Epstein. The same year he mysteriously fell off his yacht, 6 heads of Israeli intelligence at his funeral, totally normal for a book publisher. During this same period, Epstein had an Austrian passport with his photo, but a false name and a Saudi address. That's not something you pick up at the post office. That's intelligence tradecraft. One of his clients was Adnan Khashoggi, the middleman, transferring American weapons from Israel to Iran. Iran-Contra, same scandal involving the CIA. Same CIA whose precursor employed Donald Barr. Same era Bush was running the agency, then the country. And a CIA front airline called Southern Air Transport would later relocate its headquarters to service the brands of Les Werfner, the man who would give Epstein everything. But that's part 2. I'm just curious how a math teacher from Brooklyn ended up with a fake passport, a Rockefeller mentor, a seat at the Trilateral Commission. An intelligence recruitment chain that runs through defense contractors and a former attorney general, and a direct connection to the man who sold spy software for the CIA and Mossad. And I'm curious why, when they finally arrested him, there were 10,000 videos seized and sealed, 6 million pages where they released maybe half, 10 co-conspirators identified, and only one charge. The CIA director who visited his townhouse now controls all the intelligence, and the president who promised to release everything is attacking the congressman who wrote the Transparency Act. I'm just curious if those files stay sealed, not to protect one man's secrets, but to protect the system that created him.
And that's what's out there nowadays. We didn't have that, say 8 years ago. And that's a lot of information, but you can stop that video, go in. And I remember doing a lot of that work back in the days. It's all correct. It's there in black and white. So if you're someone out there who is trying to downplay the fact that Epstein there's no evidence that he necessarily trafficked children for sex or he was a pedophile, then what would you say to explain all this? Do you think this is just some normal Joe Schmo who made it because he was charismatic and he said the right words and whatnot?
People
there's
think
money that just appeared in this guy's bank account out of thin air.
Yeah.
And Lex Wexner said he stole $46 million from it. He never reported it. Stupid shit like that. It could have been billion or million. See, those are the parts I don't even remember. But, it's not a normal situation. And the guy's on the Trilateral Commission, the Council of Foreign Affairs. He's selling weapons in Iran-Contra. He's not some phenomenon. He's part of the fucking system. The system created it. And once you understand that, some of that other stuff just becomes moot, because you understand that there's a society of elites within our society. And they are using, I do believe 1,000% they've used children as currency. They were using children as currency. The demonic shit, I'd like to see more evidence on it, but I do believe it. There's a lot of connections to it. When you look at Epstein's St. James Island, it's almost like a spitting image of a Baal temple where it's all satanic bullshit going on. How can you not say that this guy is not part of the Epstein class? He created this is not some guy who just made it by chance. This is the system. And when people understand the system for what it is, that's when we have a chance to have it all come crumbling down. Go ahead, fam.
Well, it's no surprise that Mike Tracy went after Whitney Webb. I don't know if you guys recall that, but he went after her. Of course, another lady he went after. Because if you're an idiot, you think that, Jeffrey Epstein was just a lucky guy who was smart and, he ended up just making these connections naturally. That doesn't happen naturally. Everything that happened to Jeffrey Epstein was entirely orchestrated and controlled. The same way that people rise and fall from power in the United States and in certain key sectors that the United States chooses, like in Israel. In the same way that, you know, these CIA operations happen and they remove and impose certain leaders at you know, at a moment's whim. That's exactly how it happens, because it is orchestrated. And the thing with Epstein isn't even about you know, Epstein himself, but how he came about and how he was able to do everything he was able to do, being who he was, and how we still don't have the ability to put out actual names with actual facts, given the fact that there's tons of evidence. And that's because they're not going to do that. They're not, you know, the establishment isn't ever going to give us the power to destroy them. Because they're the very people they would destroy. So everything you're seeing is only a surface level revelation that they're allowed to give, that they're allowed to use for partisan politics. And that's what you're seeing displayed now, even with this hearing. You know, as bad as Pam Bondi looks, this is just another theater where they get to pretend that it's just the Republicans here, or they get to poo-poo Hillary Clinton or the Clintons for a few times before they go back to their lives. There's so many people that have died that have been tied to Epstein or anything related with the Epstein files, that, you know, it's just shady. Like it's not just shady, but it's statistically, as we always say, statistically unlikely, almost impossible that all of these things would happen just around this group of people if it wasn't controlled, manipulated, and orchestrated. And that's what people need to remember. And they also need to remember these people are still in power. And as that video said, they're still ruling over us. And they're, you know, they're trying to move on and trying to blame each other, to divert, to distract from the reality. And more than the satanic thing, I think it's just evil. You know, these people are evil. They see humans and human beings, the majority of them, as a nuisance to be discarded in the way of their desires to capture resources, and their way of their desires to control everything. And they're going to do whatever they can to exert more control as people start discovering all the shit that they do and how vile they are. And that's the world we're seeing now. The world we're experiencing now is going towards that evil juncture. And if people would only see that it's not, you know, as simple as just like the Democrats and the Republicans, but that it is a global international ring of people trying to protect their assets, their interests, their families, and they're all against us, but there are a lot fewer of them, then, you know, we could really look at the enemy and actually face it head on. But people are so busy just distracted with a bunch of bullshit, and it really is that simple when you look at it. And this is just one iteration of that, right? This is one example of that whole thing.
Yeah, it's more about the system itself, I think, fam. I think you hit it on the nose. It's controlled and orchestrated, and it's more about you know, the system than it is Epstein, I think, at this point, because he did a lot of dirty work for a lot of people, and we're never going to know who those people were that they traffic children to until after they're dead or free or safe, where they can just, oh, here's some accountability after he's dead, like the George Bush stuff, right? You know, but that's it, guys. That's it for that section. I want to let everybody know, and fam, we should talk about it now and then talk about the end real quickly. We are putting together, let's get fam big up there with me. We're putting together a little fundraiser of sorts. We're going to get back at it as much as we can. We're going to try to stay committed to the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday shows. Kick it back in old school Convo couch days, now the TruthWire, and try to do as much as we can. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to land on our feet for any type of corporate media. I wonder why, fam. I don't think it's going to happen. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to grind it out and do it for ourselves. So we want to invite everybody, if you have a few bucks, you can always go to our new Give, Send, and Go. Got it. Jeez, Jayme. Thank you. We'll put the link in the chat. I like the way that fam, she came up with the old 2018 picture. That was in San Diego. I think that was the first event we did when we went on the road. We went to the Democratic Convention in San Diego, and we did some news reporting, fam. That was like that That was the first time we got out and about there, right? Do I say it correctly?
I don't know if it was one of the first times that we actually beat out CNN for questions, and we infiltrated the Kamala Harris and the what was it? What's the Asian guy?
No, that was Long Beach. That was after. This is San Diego.
San Diego. Oh,
This is San Diego.
I don't remember.
We met Tulsi and
oh, was it Tulsi?
Tulsi was.
I mean,
what's her name?
We were infiltrating
some California seat. You know the girl I'm talking about? They were together. Ro Khanna was one of the speakers.
Yeah.
At the event we went to after.
We infiltrated the Democratic Party. We were asking them questions. You know, we were seeing like how they were, and I mean, this is like a gigantic. I don't want to say it's a cartel, but you know, the Democratic Party acts like pretty much like a gang in California. You know, they control everything. There's very little progress there because of that. But this is one of our first moments. But the reason we're putting out this campaign is because, you know, I don't know if you've all noticed, but we've been right every single time when it comes to the last few years.
Be a little humble, will you, fam?
No, I'm not humble about that. We've been decades ahead, like to a few other people, right? Like the Whitney Webbs, who have been talking about this Epstein stuff for a long time and she's written extensive books on it. And the thing is, like with COVID, with elections, with Trump, with the Democrats, with Bernie Sanders, you know, we lived through all those moments and we were far ahead, and we got punished for being ahead. Yeah. We got completely demonetized, completely censored, completely out of the algorithm. Yeah. We didn't get our demonetization back. I have had my YouTube channel completely taken. It hasn't gotten back to me. There are other people who claim to be the most censored people in the entirety of independent media that have gotten their channels back, that are now being monetized and pushed into the algorithm, that have never been stopped from being in the algorithm, that are constantly plastered on mainstream media articles, you know, as being controversial and this and that. The mainstream media will never, ever highlight somebody that is a threat to the empire, not in a positive way that we have seen some of these people were completely prohibited from growing. The video that got my channel taken down was an interview with Scott Ritter that I did about Russia. Scott Ritter goes on other shows, does the same type of interviews, but mine gets completely cut down. I'm not allowed to have a TikTok. I literally posted one video, got banned, didn't post any videos, got banned, just so I can see my family's TikToks that they send me. So it's like, it's ridiculous. Like it's impossible for us. On the other hand, you know, I've worked for RT, Pasta has done stuff for RT, for other channels. I can't be told what to do, what to write, how to formulate something. And, you know, I haven't really talked about this publicly, but during the genocide in Gaza, there was a lot of, we can't call it humanitarian, we can't call it genocide. The language is too strong, this and that. Like a lot of kind of like, not full on censorship, but like an attempt to, in a way, downgrade or diminish what Israel was doing. And there were other things of trying to take the narrative towards a right-wing slant. And, you know, we don't play team sports. We don't play partisan politics. We don't do this. And obviously we have our own ideologies, but in terms of what we portray out, we lead out not from an ideology first, but from a truth first perspective. Like whatever the truth is, this is why it's easy for us to be consistent. And we have been consistent. I mean, we've been consistent about, you know, everything. You know, when we were supporting Sanders, when we were supporting AOC, when we Pasta and, you know, and us, we were interviewing Tulsi, we were giving her questions. We were pretty open about what was going on with them. And then the moment they did something wrong, we called it out. And we called it out from that moment on, and we haven't gone back since. And I'm at a point where I don't support any politicians from pretty much any country. I will say I like some better than others, but I don't fully believe the narratives that any single country in any single place tells us, because it's not just one person, it's a slew of people, and there's so much complexity that goes on in decision making and geopolitics. And so, you know, there are reasons why I stopped working with RT. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't a terrible thing, but it wasn't a great thing either. But it is a way to also stay true to my principles. Because I always said to the audience, like, I'm never going to sell out, and we haven't, like, we haven't sold out at all. Like, there are people, and I'm not going to give names, but there are people in independent media that have sold out, whether to the right to get a certain kind of audience, or have sold out in terms of the superfluous nature of their information. It's not just the right, it's also just going on and talking about multipolarity and not giving any depth, and not, and kind of just, sucking up to either Russia or China only. We're not paid by Russia. We're not paid by China. We're not paid by anybody. We're certainly not paid by Zionists. And so we're paying the price of being entirely censored. You cannot succeed in this medium by being independent if you don't have the support of just the audience, because otherwise somebody's paying you a heap of money. And in order to do more investigative work, in order for us to do this more fully, to not rely on any other, media supporting us or any other media company supporting us, we need people to actually support and actually take action, and actually, not just wait around for somebody to save them, like, be a part of the action. And we know that it's a tough time for everybody. We talk about it constantly, how things are very dire, and the economy and everything. So we understand that, but we also we will never be able to compete with mainstream media or with anybody else that's giving you these very polarizing, stupid, superfluous narratives if we don't have the means to do it. So that's why we launched this campaign.
Amen, fam. And I know it's really hard for you. It's hard for me too, as well, to go and sell ourselves sometimes and say, hey, help us out, whatnot. But I mean, this is where we're at. We're going to do our part to make sure we have the consistency coming back. We're going to concentrate a lot of our energy and effort over here. We've been on some amazing journeys, and Fam is right. When he talks about she's no longer working with RT for certain reasons, whatnot, and I'm not going to go someplace and to go get the story and then misrepresent or lie about that story to appease anybody for a paycheck. Just not going to happen. And sometimes I got to learn it the hard way. I've learned several times it's not good to keep your put networks or people on pedestals, because they're just going to let you down, right? And I'm not going to compromise my principles. All right, I'm not going to tell people that I believe that we should close the border just to appease somebody who's paying me a check. Not going to happen. And if that person or that network doesn't want me around, then they can get rid of me, because I'm going to tell what I believe is the honest truth, right? And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, the reason why I wanted to do this is be part of truth telling or citizen journalism, is to try and bring people together, because I believe there's so much propaganda and so many lies out there. Guys, every morning I wake up with my mom, get her ready for her breakfast, and I put on Fox News. Sometimes I'll switch it around. I mean, you know what they're talking about right now? 80% of the time they're talking about this Guthrie woman. They haven't talked about Gaza in over 6 weeks. They haven't talked about what's going on in Venezuela. They did one little story and they went away with it. They're not talking about Cuba. They're not talking about Iran. They're not talking about any of that stuff, right? And those who are talking about Cuba, those who are talking about Venezuela, those who are talking about Iran are lying, because they need to make a paycheck. Because not only is mainstream media captured, so is the independent media. That's why some people call it the alternative mainstream media nowadays, because it's captured. Fucking Tim Cass, Lauren Chen, you're going to give these Benny Johnson, you're going to give these fucking idiots money? And what are they going to do? Give you team sports propaganda over and over and over again. We're very committed to what we do. We believe what we're doing is the right thing to do. We believe that we're not going to compromise on our principles and bring you the truth as we see fit. Help us out if you can. And if you can't, you ain't got a few bucks, share the link. Do that for us, right? We've been able to do this before, and I can't thank you enough. Some of the old school people, Fred Edward was the first to donate. We put his message up on the board. Old school people. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's tough what we're doing, but we love what we're doing. We're passionate about what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? We're getting good at what we're doing. I mean, just look at the Convo couch 8 years ago and look at us now, right? And look, we want to continue to do this, so we need your help. So do what you can do. If you can't give, share. We are still demonetized. We are very much shadow banned. We haven't had our monetization back in, 6 years? They kneecapped us. But we're still here fighting, and we're still here fighting for you, and we're going to continue to do that. And for ourselves, too, as well. So go ahead and do it. We put the link in there. Fred Edward was the first to do it. Guys, if you can go to it and at least share it, that would mean so much to us. On the list this year, we want to go to Peru, we want to go to Colombia, and maybe Brazil. Fam, can you explain to people really quickly before we get on to the next thing? We'll transition to the next thing. Why Peru, the first one on the list, is so important? What's going on?
Well, there's a battle right now going on in Peru between the United States and China. There's the port of Shanghai port. That port was built by the Chinese, and Peru does not want to end the relationship with the Chinese, but the United States is pissed, and they're trying to convince them to do that. But see, this is just more, for me, this is more of like two bigger powers competing for the resources of a country that has the resources. A lot of people give credence to China, and I think they should deserve credit for some things, but at the same time, like, I see this more as what I said before, a global race for interests in a lot of these countries that are in the what we would call the global south, or that are part of the global majority, aren't going to see the benefit of this. And there's a lot of that going on. There's also going to be, I think, for the 5th or 6th time, the daughter of the dictator. Her name is Keiko Fujimori. His name was Augusto Fujimori. His daughter is running, and she's a neoliberal. She would probably sell everything to the United States. Worse, Peru hasn't been able to keep a president. They put Pedro Castillo in jail for trying to change the constitution. There's been a lot of problems, and there's also going to be like 40 candidates running. It's very likely that she could win. It's very likely that whoever ends up with her in the final round could win. This is, again, an opening to what's coming with AI, with surveillance, this tech that's being used, this lithium, copper, mining, all of the minerals. That's going to be important for the future. And so that's why it's important. And it's also important for people to understand what's happening in South America and Central America is also just a capturing and a competition of resources. This is why Venezuela has been left alone. Cuba is being left, largely alone, besides the donation of Mexico and others who are sending humanitarian aid. So we're going to talk about Venezuela now, but that's why this is important. Colombia is important because Petro is leaving and he's not running, and he's been kind of a nuisance to the United States. So whoever steps in might just give Colombia away. And if they give Colombia away, there's less protection for Venezuela. Brazil is also coming up as well eventually, and then Nicaragua next year. So there's a lot happening in Latin America, but it's not just elections. We're looking to do investigative work. We're looking to expose a lot more things on our own, and to analyze things in a way that I don't think you guys get a lot, because you get very, very people married to an ideology, whether it's multipolarity, whether it's sucking up to Russia or China, or whether it's being a liberal and doing that, or being a right winger and just talking about how the liberals are the problem and everything is satanic and pedophilic, and there's no depth to any of this. There has to be truth and nuance for all of this. And a lot of what you're seeing in media now, that social media has turned into, is sensationalist headlines. Oh my God, Russia did this, or China did this, or so-and-so did this, Putin said this. But none of it is backed by actual fact, by truth, by actual analysis. It's all either just cheerleading or bashing, but without any deeper level of analysis. So in order for us to do it, we're asking to be supported by you, so we don't have to be supported by all of these other people that have something that they want from you. Like, it doesn't matter who, you're not gonna be funded by China and then tell the truth about China entirely, where you're not going to be. It's just so hard to really be independent and really be free and really be willing to put everything on the line for the truth and what we stand for, right? So
Absolutely.
That's why we're doing it.
By the way, I have a couple announcements. Pedro just said, donated $20 a minute ago and said, keep doing the good work. Thank you, guys. So we want to say thank you to Pedro. Fam, another quick question. How many, do you know off the top of your head, but maybe you can just, how many ex-Peruvian presidents have gone to jail? I mean, I know Fujimori went to jail, but and that's almost like, I think, like that those in charge want to make it believe that nobody will ever be good within the system, so they can always just remove who they want when they want.
It's been like at least the last 6 or 7 presidents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's insane how it's been. It's endless. But there's a lot of problems here. The people in the Capitol are pretty much just neoliberal, and the people outside are not, because they've experienced the repercussions of empire. They're more like the people in Bolivia, because they tend to be more of the indigenous people, and there's a lot of racism, a lot of like discrimination still. And again, these countries can't find their identities again. They need to be able to find their identities again, and they need to understand that the United States is not their friend, but that also other interests, other countries might also be trying to take things as well for their benefit. China has a more win-win type of approach than the United States.
Yeah.
So that's a reality. But I think there needs to be an understanding that the way of life as we knew it, where people lived simply and could be independent and not be surveilled, is gone. Like now, pretty much every country is jumping on the biometrics. Pretty much every country is jumping in the digital ID. Every country, including China and Russia. But of course, these people never talk about that. These people that are cheerleading about multipolarity don't talk about that stuff because it doesn't fit their agenda. A lot of the left never talks about that stuff. The anti-imperialist left, they never talk about it because they don't see it as a problem. But it is a problem, because eventually any sort of resistance is going to be surveilled, and it's going to be shut down. And it is on us to resist that. And I think, Pasta and I kind of encompass a rare arena where we cover all of these things. We don't just cover, the very anti-imperialist left perspective. We also cover the surveillance and tech perspective that a lot of these people don't cover. We've talked about COVID, and everything that happened with the COVID vaccines. We talk about elections and the importance of that. So we're not just adhering to our little area, because we understand all of these are connected. Everything that we're talking about, all of these people, the defense industry, the intelligence apparatus, are running all of these subjects at hand.
Fam, can you read that last comment that's down below, please?
So anonymous giver, 550 USD. Thank you so much, by the way. Just now, hello together. This is for the Convo Couch and the perceived quality of information and dialogues. Best regard, CC. Thank you very much.
And awesome. Great. Thank you so much. It is pretty awesome. $555, and best regards, Convo Couch, or somebody else's name, whatever, who that is, CC or just anonymous giver. Thank you so much. And this means, see right there, it's like, boom, right? Now we're going to have an opportunity. We're going to start coordinating, getting things together. When is Peru? What do we have to see? And obviously too, being in the business for a little while, we're so much more seasoned. Fam was talking about in this time, let's not just hang around Lima. Let's go to the different areas. Now that we've got our sea legs, we can go to different areas, different spots, bring different stories and whatnot, because we don't go there just to observe the elections. We're also observing the people and talking to the people and trying to give an understanding of what it's like over there. So do us a favor. If you can't donate, no big deal. Thank you to those who could donate. Do us a favor, click the link below. We just shared it. Go over there, and there's a big share button. Fam, you need to share it. Okay, hit that share button and share it on your social media. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your I gotta do one more. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your Twitter. Share it wherever you can. Just share it for us and help us out. And then we'll bring the news back to you. I don't think we've let you down yet. We've always tried to get good stories wherever we're at and talk to people as much as we can. Carmen Rockachild, thank you so much for $50. That's awesome. A minute ago, thank you for your honest journalism. I greatly appreciate you both. And we appreciate you, Carmen Rockachild. Thank you so much. Like I said, if you can't
not
donate,
Rothschild.
Not Rothschilds, please. That's the news. It's gonna be breaking. Fee and Pasta and Jayme CheeseSlice and now taking money from the Rothschilds. No, it's the Rocketchilds. That's that, guys. Do us a favor. Thank you to all the donors. Thank you to all the old school people. Check us out, fam. Let's get into it because I spent a lot too much time on that. We'll put it up at the very end. A lot of questions going on about Venezuela right now. Speaking to the average person every day about Venezuela, you know what I'm saying? They still repeat the State Department talking points. Well, he was a socialist dictator that got elected several times, 3 times. And you could tell that the people there, number one, they left a Chavista in charge. So you know they have power over there. Number two, just look at the local elections. Chavistas win all the time. The dominant party there. The people support the Chavistas because the Chavistas put themselves on the side of the poor. Does that mean they're perfect? No. Does that mean they don't have drawbacks? No. But they have their national sovereignty when they have their ruler of choice that they elected in office. Once we remove that, we just do what we normally do. Regime change specials. What's going on, fam, in Venezuela?
So I just want to right off the bat say I understand why people have that sentiment that Venezuela, like that there's something that happened in Venezuela, that Venezuela is sold out, that all this stuff. But I want you to put yourself in the shoes of Venezuela. Your allies that are China and Russia, the ones that could actually do something, are not going to involve themselves in Venezuela knew this after Syria. They already knew that discussions were at hand, that Russia was not going to get involved. Meanwhile, they're all being attacked by the United States in various ways, right? So you have the attacks against Iran. Iran has been a huge partner for Venezuela when it comes to like oil, when it comes to aid. And also you have the relationship with Colombia. In spite of, a lot of Petro's ramblings, there has been an open communication with Colombia more than ever. And Donald Trump has been attacking Colombia as well. You have the reality that the Trump administration under Rubio, as Secretary of State, has long planned for the demise of the Chavistas, has long been planning for the entirety of the Bolivarian revolution and the Bolivarian spirit to be completely cut off. They've been wanting Venezuela's oil. They've been wanting to gain control of that. They know that this was the moment to do it. They've been planning it. And so they did. And so they took that opportunity. They tried it many times through regime change. We saw Maria Corina Machado. We saw Edmundo. We saw before that Juan Guaido. We've seen them try everything and they failed. The only thing that they know they couldn't do is fight hand-to-hand combat with Venezuelans because they knew that they were going to lose that. Because Venezuelan people were already training and ready to go fight to death for their country and for their sovereignty. They were willing to do that. So what did they do? They did what they framed as an operation where they took out Nicolas Maduro and they kidnapped him and killed everybody that was there. Did the United States have intel from inside? Of course they did. This is what they do. They're good at this. Was there some sort of likely betrayal at some level? Yeah. Okay. We could even speculate that there was. There's been some talks that there was a mid-level betrayal in some way. But for people to take that and say that without certainty, Delcy Rodriguez betrayed Maduro, that this is all, they all sold out, that the Chavistas sold out, is just a very superfluous analysis. It's very easy to go down that route, especially living in the United States, where we can just say that and look at them and be like, she sold out. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. But how it comes across is extremely arrogant and extremely dismissive of a people that we can't even emulate. What do we have to show for ourselves in the United States? We are literally ruled by the epicenter of Epstein pedophiles, Zionists, and literally like the worst of the worst psychopaths. And we have the audacity to poo-poo and lecture how the Chavistas did this or that. Tell me, how does that come across, not just to the world, but to a lot of these people that are angry that a lot of these Western commentators and people from outside of Venezuela are saying, oh, I know for sure, it's very obvious that this happened. So I want to go through that. Now saying that, let's go through what was said. This is just one example. There's a lot of examples, but this is just one example with the squirrel, right? A long time ago, the squirrel blocked me over something, but I am now unblocked. So I will be reading this. So what happened is that Delcy Rodriguez welcomed the U.S. Secretary, I forget his first name, but his name is Wright, Chris Wright, I think it is. And he is the Secretary of Energy, right? So he's in charge of the oil sector part. Now, for those of you that don't know, Delcy Rodriguez was named by Maduro in charge of the oil sector, among other things, but that was her main job. She was named in charge of the oil sector. So she welcomed this secretary, right, in the Miraflores Palace in Caracas. So, and they welcomed him with music and all this yada, yada, yada stuff, right? Like, and you look at this and you're like, why the hell are they doing this? You know, the United States just kidnapped your leader. What is this? You know, what is this? Okay. So let me position this to you. Immediately after the fall of Syria, Russia welcomed Jolani, and they keep welcoming Jolani. They keep welcoming Netanyahu. They keep welcoming all these people with royal red carpets. The Saudis, they welcomed the Saudis, which were part of the destruction of Syria and have done absolutely nothing for Palestine. They keep having these same things. Why are they not criticized? China does the same thing. They open up their diplomatic relationships. But when Venezuela, and I've seen this consistently, when Venezuela or a global South leader does it, it's somehow looked on negatively. And the thing is, I get it, because from an optics perspective, it's like, what are you doing? But what exactly did you guys want them to do? I want to know. I want to hear from the audience, and I want to hear from a lot of these people. What exactly did you want them to do after they kidnapped Nicolas Maduro, killed everybody, and then threatened to keep bombing them if they didn't like have, you know, the reaction that they wanted? Now, for a long time, Nicolas Maduro has been having relationships with Venezuela or with the United States. They've long been having relationships of economic cooperation, and actually never stopped to that degree. So this is nothing new, but a lot of people don't know about that. So they're looking at this like, oh, look, she's just selling out to the CIA. There's a difference, guys, between a lot of these diplomatic showdowns, you know, and it is disgusting, and I hate it. And if it were me, I would want to bash these people's heads in and you know, blow them out and say, get the hell out of here. You kidnapped our president. You're trying to take over our oil industry. You know, fuck you. Go to hell. But what does that do? Like, how can you sit here and tell me that you would do that sitting in the United States, not in the position that these people are? I am not saying that I would react the same way they are. I am not saying that I would do the same thing they are. But honestly, what would you do when you don't have anybody else working with you? The United States has the entirety of Israel, has the entirety of NATO, has its entire $1 trillion defense industry at your doorstep. What do you do as a country that all you have is oil, and you have that to negotiate with, and they're pointing a gun to your head, and they're telling you, all right, what do you want to do? How do you want to go about this? And the Chavistas, and you want to keep the Chavistas in power. How do you do that? They've recognized that the Chavistas have to be in power because the people want them there. So the United States has recognized that. That's a win for Venezuela. That's like one of the only wins. Is this a situation that I see, you know, as a positive one? No, this is shitty. This is shitty. You know, we're losing. The anti-imperialist bloc is losing power, but it's losing power because they don't have a bloc, because they don't have an alliance. They have NATO. They have blocks. Whenever somebody goes after the United States, or the United States says, hey, don't do this, they all listen. We don't have that on the other side. We don't have that. So how do you expect to combat that? Oh, but China and Russia respect sovereignty. That's fine. They can respect sovereignty and still have a bloc that is actually facing hegemony, but they don't do that. They have BRICS, but what is BRICS doing? It's an economic bloc. It's not going to worry about that stuff. Okay, then what's the point? Like, so, you know, it's like all of these things combined. You need to understand, like, this isn't a defense of any sort of relationship with the United States, because no relationship with the United States, no country has come out at the top after having a relationship with the United States. And I know that, and we all know that, right? So this isn't saying that, but look at what everybody's trying to do right now. They're trying to normalize relations with everybody. That's the era we're in. You know, before I continue on this, reading this tweet, I want to Pasta hear from you. Sorry.
Well, I was going to play the devil's advocate before, like when you said, what should I do? Well, not give a a musical, what's the word? Introduction of sorts, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, be a little bit cold and angry about it, if you're going to be held hostage, act like you're being held hostage. This is kind of like, what they get a nice musical engagement when they walk through the door, a glass of freaking champagne and stuff. And,
I agree with that.
I can understand why some people would
In
say
an
it
optics.
would be, what is it, Southern hospitality in Venezuela here? I mean,
But you know how these people are. This is how they are. They're showing the world their perspective. And while I get that one, and I agree with you. Like that's how I would act. I wouldn't act all jovial and all this stuff. But their perspective to the world is, we're gonna show we've always been about peace. We've always been positive. That's been Maduro's entire thing this whole time. We're positive. We welcome this. We welcome that. That's the perspective of pretty much everybody except the United States and Israel. Like, we're going to welcome diplomacy. We're going to lead like this. This is why these people always take advantage, because they don't see this as a positive. The United States looks at this as weakness. And a lot of countries still fail to understand, Russia included, that the more diplomatic and the more positive you are with the United States doesn't get you the wins you think. You don't have to be like that. You need to show strength. And I agree with that perspective. But I'm not going to tell Venezuela, who's, has a gun to their head, how they need to be at this point. I mean, what else do they have? So I'm going to read this tweet. And the reason I was pissed off is
I do say something that
across.
I just want to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick. My initial thought about it is, when I was playing devil's advocate, it still says to me that they're willing to show that they're a nation state still in charge and are going to do the best for their people, and that means working with anybody, adversary or foe. This is the world they live in. Like you said, all the heavy equipment that the United States is walking around with, you know what I'm saying, as far as military wise, they can't compete with that. Plus all the allies they have,
they can't
against the world. So, at the very least, put up a front like you're not shaking, and you'll do what's best for your people moving forward.
Yeah. And so, okay, so I just want to read this. So this is what this girl said. This is, of course, exactly the kind of welcome you give the regime that just illegally invaded your country, kidnapped your president, and is holding him and his wife hostage. A lot of fucking idiots on the pseudo-radical left have been laundering this bullshit and still are. By the way, the Z-Squirrel supports Chomsky. It was obvious from the start that what happened was a coup, and that the corrupt Delcy Rodriguez and her brother made a deal with the Zionist pedophile Trump regime and CIA, but pseudo-radicals on here just go, no, this is totally normal. No, you are hurting the cause. OMG. Fucking morons. If you don't want to defend this new CIA puppet regime, then fine, defend it. If you want to defend it, don't insult the intelligence of people and lie about how this is actually totally normal and that there's still the Bolivarian Chavistas and nothing changed. It's pathetic, and the more of it comes out, the more stupid it makes you look. It's amazing. Delcy Rodriguez is such a shameless piece of shit. She didn't even bother waiting for more than a few weeks to do this grand welcome as musicians for a new master, because she knew the idiots on the pseudo-radical left had already launched it all for her. Fucking idiots.
Jesus.
So, okay. So first of all, this comes off extremely arrogant, coming from Westerners, a Westerner that's not in Venezuela, that doesn't understand anything about who Delcy Rodriguez is, where she comes from, all this stuff. Right. And the thing is, it's just shitty because you're like a Westerner talking about this stuff about in a country who has received sanctions, threats, bombs, like everything you can think of. People have starved to protect it, where people are in the streets every day. That's pretty much my tweet, right? That you can put up. I'm pretty much talking about that. Like, for me, this is just extremely arrogant. I get the sentiment, like I do, because the emotional side of me would be like, yeah, fuck this. Like, let's show them who we are. Let's tell them a big F you. Let's, you took Maduro. We're not going to give in. We're going to stand our ground. We're going to do this. But how do you do that? Like, give me the logical, tangible as to how Venezuela would do that alone. They don't have the military capacity to do that. That's a fact. They just don't have it. It's not enough to go online and say, you need to do this, this, and that, when these people literally physically don't have the means to do it. And that's a reality that a lot of the left don't want to face. This is a Western left, and I have a problem with that, because they just sit online and they talk about how they're so revolutionary and radical, but they've never actually been in the situations that these people have been in. They've just never done that in their lives, and they never will. So how will they possibly understand what these people are dealing with, right? You cannot just say without evidence that this is what happened, right? And like I said, we have literally, we're in the United States, we're ruled by these Epstein fascists that are protecting each other, and we have the audacity to say, why didn't the Chavistas do this? Why we don't even have anything remotely close to freaking democratic, socialist, anything. We have nothing. We have literally people dying of fentanyl in the streets and rolled by pedophiles, and we have Pam Bondi talking about the fucking Dow. That's what we have. And on the other side, we have AOC and the Obamas. Like, what do we have to show for any of this stuff? Yet we get to, talk about, how, they should have done this, and Cuba should have done that, and Nicaragua should have done that. Like, it's just I'm so sick and tired of hearing these people. And the people who have been on the ground with us, like our anti-imperialist friends who have been on the ground and know these countries and know the politics, they're seeing this like, you guys are just stupid. You guys are ridiculous. You're just commenting without knowledge of what you're talking about. And like I said, like, I get the sentiment. I don't like what's happening. It is not a win. It's not the same. The Chavistas may be in power, but they're not calling all the shots. And I've said that on the show. But what did you expect them to do? I want to know, what would you do if you were Delcy Rodriguez? Maybe you wouldn't give the fanfare. That's one thing I would do. I would be a lot more stern. But apart from that, what would you do? Like, what is your we don't even go after our own government. We don't go after our own politicians. We do a few protests and then stop. Like, what exactly, who are we to lecture these people on what they should do? That's just, my whole thing with that.
Well, how would you separate that from some people who want to have an opinion? There are obviously some people, old school guy, Keel Jones, thank you so much. I hope that's a guy or girl. I don't know what your pronouns are, Keel, but thank you, a long-time listener of the show. They seems very upset and passionate about what's going on. I mean, even if we don't really have the complete understanding to tell these people, because we've never walked in those shoes, to tell them what they should do or what we think they should do, shouldn't we call out what we believe is the corruption when we see it? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
but what is the corruption?
He did make a statement. He said Chavista in name only. That's Delcy Rodriguez that he was talking about. I mean, a lot of people, they see this right now. Somebody in the chat, Keel Jones said it. And I'm not yelling at Keel. I'm listening to what you're having to say, because I know before in the past, I would say I'm passionate about the situation. I hate regime change. Why can't I just call out the people for the negative, the negative aspect they're bringing to the table?
Yeah, you can. I'm not saying you can't. Yeah. I'm saying the way you do it, like the way it comes off as arrogant. Like, you can say, man, I wouldn't give them this much fanfare. Like, I know what you guys are trying to do, but I wouldn't give this much fanfare. I'm not sitting there saying, oh, good job, Delcy Rodriguez. This is great. I'm not ignoring what's happening. I think it's ridiculous that, yeah, they're giving them like all of this diplomacy and stuff. But again, in the back of that, I'm thinking, but they're in that situation. We're not. Like, you can call it out, but you're not in that situation where you literally have no recourse except to use what you have, which is the oil. Venezuela has oil. They have that. Cuba has nothing. Cuba doesn't have oil. Cuba doesn't have any mechanism to compete, which is why they're still there, because the U.S. doesn't need to bomb them. Then they just need to take them out. And who did they take out first? The stronger one, Venezuela, that would give them oil. And that's what they're doing now. They're trying to Gazify Cuba, because they know that in order to get Cuba more easily, they needed to take out Venezuela. And that's what they're doing. And they're doing it with the support of their allies. Venezuela and Cuba do not have alone like the mechanism, the means to confront the United States' $1 trillion army. They just don't have that. And that's a reality people don't want to face.
Cuba
and Maduro.
Go ahead, keep going. Maduro here.
And Maduro's son, like Maduro's son, and you can put this tweet, has said that that the country is taking the right steps. Unity of the people gives them peace of mind in prison. So a lot of what I said is true. Maduro laid out a plan of what they should do if he was gone. And in that plan, he included Delcy Rodriguez. So either Maduro's an idiot too, and Delcy fully betrayed him, and his son is also betraying him and is also an idiot. And then all these other people that are directly like officials from Venezuela are also idiots, or perhaps it's just that they're doing what they can to survive. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, these people are going to do what they can to survive. They're not just looking out for themselves. They're looking out for the survival of their country, of their people. It's very easy to say, well, you should have fought the United States, when you're not on the receiving end of our bombs, and our military isn't bombing your city to smithereens. You wouldn't last a fucking hour under the circumstances that these people have lived in years. And I can say that full front. The majority of Americans would not last an hour with how we have treated other people in other countries, with what I've seen in the Donbass, with what I've seen in Lebanon, with what I've seen in Iran, in Iraq, the way these people live. We wouldn't last hours like these people live, and how they've lasted with years of sanctions, of just being vilified, of being called terrorists, of being called this. Like, we wouldn't last hours because we have no idea what that feels like. So it's very easy for the intellectual Western left to say, oh, they sold out, they did this, they did that. You don't know what happened entirely. Nobody does. But what I do know is that the United States had to negotiate with the Chavistas because they knew very well that putting in Maria Corina Machado, one of the most unpopular people on the planet, is not going to get them what they wanted. So that means that they had to deal with the Chavistas. And so what Venezuela has to protect itself is its oil. And it's trying to hold on to it as much as possible. And what are they going to do if nobody is there supporting them, if there's no bloc supporting them, if there isn't strength in these numbers? All we hear from China and Russia is we support Venezuela's sovereignty, we support Cuba's sovereignty. Now, supposedly, Russia is going to send oil to Cuba. When it happens, yay! But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I when I see it, good. But I haven't seen that, and a lot of these people are just like repeating information that hasn't even been confirmed. So, yeah, I'm obviously really.
No, keep going. When I was going to say to you, it's a little bit when we were talking about how people approach this and what they have to say, and this kind of American mentality, leftist, right? The mentality of leftists in America sometimes when they don't understand what's exactly going on, and they can, go a little bit over the top. But somebody was making a comment about, well, the same way what you're saying right now about the way you make a comment about what's going on is the same way the Gusanos in America say, how dare you speak about my country? I don't see the similarities in the two, but I did want you to address it because it was mentioned, and how you would push back on that and the differences between the two. You know what I'm saying? To what you're
because these people are in Venezuela.
Yeah.
These people are actually in Venezuela, and they're aware of what's happening. Like, it's not the people that are seeing a lot of these comments and complaining to me and to others about why are these Westerners talking about this stuff like this? Like, why are they saying, and other people, other journalists who don't live in the United States also have a problem with the way, Westerners talk about geopolitics like it's some sort of game, and we don't really do that, but other channels do. They're like, oh, this is just like so-and-so, and Russia's going to take this and that. It's not a fucking like game. These are people's lives. And I think a lot of the way podcasters and other social media people online have begun talking about geopolitics takes away the humanity of it, takes away the reality of it. The reality is these are people dealing with real issues. These aren't just like little, pieces that your little games that people are playing and you're betting on this horse and on that guy and on that guy. These are people that are living throughout like their lives. And at every turn, this woman has been threatened by the Trump administration. She's been threatened, like her whole, like she's been entirely threatened. And it doesn't help when all you're doing is just bashing them instead of like focusing on who's doing this. Like why is this happening? And how do you fix this? It's going to take more than just saying, oh, well, she shouldn't have sold out. Like, how do you know she sold out? What does selling out mean? You know, at this point, like, what should they have done? Gotten their guns and shot at all these people coming in, and all these people would have died. And, you know, what would have happened? I don't know. Maybe what would have happened? You know, like, it's like they've had to make decisions that I wouldn't want to be making, to be honest. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in the position she's in. I really, really wouldn't. Would I take different actions? Maybe, but I honestly can't tell you right now that I wouldn't try to do whatever I could to save the people of Venezuela, like to save their lives, because ultimately a war with the United States would end up in the death of a lot of people in Venezuela, of a lot of innocent people. So if you're willing to put these people's lives on the line in your conscience, and you're willing to say, let's go fight for that, like people in, you know, in the resistance axis constantly do that, you know, yeah, if they're all willing to do that, that's fine. But not everybody's willing to do that. And that's just, you know, a reality you have to face. Assad wasn't willing to do that. He left. He went to Moscow, you know, but it's like not everybody is at that level where they're willing to do that. And not every, you know, not every leader wants to sacrifice their people. They just don't. They don't want to sacrifice their people. So these are big life philosophical realities that a lot of much of the world is dealing with right now, and has been dealing with right now. And sometimes when we talk about it in a geopolitical way, I feel like we take that human aspect away, and we act like it's just, you know, these things we're talking about the news, but it's not. It's their life, and you have to remember that when you're talking and analyzing this stuff, because if you don't, then you come off as a complete dick. And Brian Meyer posted this, and I just want to point this out because
you're a Brian Meyer fan, right?
No, I mean, he's a guy that's always down on the ground.
You won't accept my friendship for calling me back, fam. I don't like him. Not just kidding.
He works for Telesur. So here's the thing. So he posted this video saying another big protest of people demanding freedom of Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores today in Caracas. I shot this on my phone this afternoon. Doesn't really fit the US. He's a dictator narrative, but we're talking about the nation with the world's largest oil reserves. And that's the thing here. So people every day are marching in the streets, okay, for the return of Nicolas Maduro. They haven't forgotten what happened.
Show the picture, Jayme. Click on it.
It's you know, the people of Venezuela haven't forgotten what happened. Okay, so the government might be doing what they can to continue things for the people of Venezuela, to make sure that they can continue to eat, that they can continue to live, that people's children could be safe. And these people are out in the streets demanding that their leader comes back. So what exactly does this say? That the people are still supportive of Nicolas Maduro. And every day, again, in the United States, we see a few protests here and there, but they generally stop, and they generally end, and they generally go away eventually. Like, we don't see consistently, because they have a movement, they have a belief, they have an ideology, they have, you know, they know their history, they know what happened. They're not being, you know, manipulated the way we are. Do I think there's some PR in the way some of these people are talking about, you know, what's happening in Venezuela coming from the Venezuelan side? Of course there is, because they don't want the population to feel, you know, like everything's gone to shit, that all of this. Of course, a government is never going to make itself look like they've failed. The same way Russia is not going to talk about the inflation issue, the same way they're not talking about the Telegram banning and all of the stuff that's happening. Like, and the reason I point this out is because, like I said, there's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to countries like Venezuela and Cuba and Mexico. They're expected to be perfect, but China and Russia are not. You know, like they can do whatever, but the left never criticizes them. And I think there's a huge disparity with how we talk about that. Kind of like, oh, they're just weaklings. They're just weaklings. And I've seen this treatment also of Middle Eastern countries. Oh, they're just, you know, oh, Syria couldn't save themselves. Oh, this couldn't. It's kind of like, but what did you want them to do? These countries don't have the resources, and all Venezuela has is the oil. So I just want to put that perspective on people's minds. And a couple more things I want to read. But
Brian Meyer does some really good work, fam, right? Obviously, he is a hardcore leftist. You know, he's a big Lula guy. I don't know if he's still there, whatnot. But even still, and this is why it's important. I just want to say thank you to everybody. First of all, it's really cool that the YouTube channel is actually got over 115 people. We're like 118 and climbing, and that's good because that's a demonetized channel that doesn't get the bell out there. So you guys are doing a great job. Keep sharing it. And, you know, our Give, Send, Go already out of the gate has been amazing. We're going to continue to send that. But people like Brian Meyer couldn't explain, like in detail, you know, how the election system worked in Brazil, right? I mean, he can just say, oh, they have the machines and been using it for so long. But this is something we can do. We can go on the ground. We can explain, you know, exactly what's going on. And that was even Glenn Greenwald couldn't give a proper explanation of how the election in Brazil, which we believe was fair, was not fraudulent, and we explain why. But he couldn't even give an explanation on why. That's the importance of what we do, because not only do we talk about all these things, and I want to thank Fam for always pushing us, right? Because Fam told me a long time ago, Pasta, I know you love talking about elections, but let's talk about other things too as well. There's other news out there, and really pushed me to get involved with other news and not just be uber concentrated on one thing. Because I did that with the Epstein situation in the very beginning. And even though it really paid dividends, it was hard. You know, I heard the tape, I don't know if it's AI, of John Podesta in the shower beating a little kid. It was like the creepiest thing in the world and stuff. So I don't think it's good to concentrate on one thing. It's good to have a good across the board. But the fact that today on a Friday that we are at 118 people on the YouTube, guys, let's continue to share that. Let's get that out there. 119 people and climbing. Thank you so much for doing so. But going back to the Brian Meyer thing, this is why the TruthWire is going to be even more important in the future, because we can explain exactly not only what's going on the ground, but what's going on with the machines and the polls. Go ahead, fam.
So the Venezuelan ambassador to Syria, his name is Jose Biamorgi, and he wrote an article kind of addressing this. So this is like an actual official that works for the government of Venezuela. And I'm going to read some of what he said, but I'm not going to read all of it. You guys should go look at it. I will post the link in the chat. So he said, what is the truth behind the narrative of betrayal of Venezuela? In recent days, the mass media have amplified their offensive against Venezuela to impose a narrative following the U.S. aggression, which culminated in the kidnapping of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Deputy Celia Flores. These misinformation merchants have decimated fantastical and fabricated stories, the product of unfounded speculation. Their aim to introduce the idea of betrayal by the high command of the revolution against President Maduro into public consciousness. More specifically, the offensive has been directed against our sister, the acting president, Delcy Eliona Rodriguez Gomez. It is clear this strategy is being led by the external enemies of the Bolivarian Revolution, together with traitors to the Chavista movement. Many of them former ministers who cannot forgive Chavez for proposing Nicolas Maduro as his successor, nor can they forgive the latter for his absolute loyalty to Chavismo and the people of Venezuela. What is the reason for the media offensive against Delcy Rodriguez? To answer this question, we must first understand two undeniable facts. Number one, the U.S. effectively failed in its regime change strategy in Venezuela, and that is a fact because the Chavistas are still in power. Number two, the aggression against Venezuela has been a miscalculation by the U.S. administration and is already beginning to take its toll. This I need to be convinced of. Keeping these two facts in mind, it will be much easier to understand the desperation of Venezuela's enemies in their search for a new strategy to weaken the Bolivarian Revolution after their historical failure to do so. What is the purpose of this new offensive? It is none other than to try to divide the people in the Chavista movement. That is the real reason behind the narrative of betrayal. So then he goes on to discuss Delcy Rodriguez's roots. She's the daughter of Jorge Antonio Rodriguez, who was an activist and a member of the revolutionary left movement, the MIR, and founded the Socialist League. Both were left-wing movements with a Marxist-Leninist anti-imperialist ideology. Her father collaborated in guerrilla movements, and he was part of this whole leftist movement. And then in the midst of the struggles led by a group of young people with strong political convictions who felt betrayed by the New York Pact or Punto Fijo Pact, as this agreement was signed by the political leaders who betrayed the people is known, the figure of Jorge Antonio Rodriguez emerged as a political and moral leader. It was in the heat of these revolutionary struggles that her sister Delcy Eliona Rodriguez Gomez was born in 1969. Delcy Rodriguez lost her father when she was only 7 years old. Okay. So he's talking about who she is and how she was appointed later on. She was appointed specifically by Maduro to do all of this. She was appointed in 2013 Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela until 2017. In 2014, Barack Obama declared Venezuela an unusual and extraordinary threat. Delcy served as a Minister of Foreign Affairs for 3 years when the U.S. dropped the pretense and began its direct aggression against the Venezuelan people, and so on and so on. He talks about her entire role. So I recommend reading that, because this is a person that works with the Venezuelan government, that I have spoken with. It's a real person. It's a person that knows a lot about Venezuela. Do I take everything that everybody from Venezuela says and as 100%, being the truth? No, like I said, like I think there is some sort of like, government official statement, like in any country. However, I don't think there is enough evidence to suggest this is just betrayal. What I think we're seeing here is a country trying to survive and trying to maintain their leaders in power as much as they can, while getting Maduro back, while using their oil that they have at the best of their ability that they can. Unfortunately, the United States has a powerful army. The United States has an ability to have a gun to their head, and has an ability to dictate to the world what other countries should do, and other countries follow, especially the ones in the West. And Venezuela doesn't have that ability, and others in the region also haven't joined Venezuela in creating some sort of bloc, and others outside the region who are powerful enough to influence also haven't done that. It's not on them to do it, but if they actually want to defeat, U.S. hegemony in the way they're talking about, then they would do it. But I mean, a lot of people can argue against that, saying no, that's not their job. Okay, well, it's also not, then it's just going to be what multipolarity is going to be, which is going to be China, Russia, and maybe the Saudis and the United States at the table, and instead of just the U.S. and the Europeans at the table. Now there's going to be more people at the table, but a lot of these countries with all the resources in Africa and South America, they're going to be left out the same as they were before. And people need to understand that. This is what I've been talking about for like now over 2 years. The reality is multipolarity does not mean equity. It does not mean that it's anti-imperialism. It doesn't mean that these things are going to change like that. And I just want people to understand that, instead of just hearing a lot of these amplified channels that constantly talk about the defeat of the United States. The United States is going down. The United States is that's it. They lost. Look, the United States has lost in terms of the American people. The shit is falling apart in the United States economically. Like the average American is feeling like the empire is in decline. But in terms of what has been accomplished, the capturing of countries, the collapse of countries, the regime changes, I'm sorry, but they're taking them and they're winning these battles. And don't be mistaken, that's what they're doing. Israel's expanding. We're getting a board of peace that basically means the imprisonment of Gaza yet again. Gazans are still getting killed and dying every day. We're still seeing this happen. We're still seeing a potential war with Iran, which they're not going to stop until Iran submits, because Iran is in the way of Israel's expansion. And it's as simple as that. So again, if you mean the empire is in decline, it's perhaps in decline for the majority of everyday people, but the people who are rich and power are not in decline. They're actually winning, and they're calling all the shots right now. And what people need to do is recognize that and understand that as this continues, it's going to be less about nation states and more about this global group of people that are financially in charge of all of this. So
yeah. Fam, you have one more tweet in there, I think, that you want to finish up with. I do have a little video clip of Delcy, because I think it's one thing to hear, like you get all this information, but to see somebody speak, to look in their eyes, that's always important. And it's Delcy talking about the DEA. Remember the insignificance of drugs coming from Venezuela. Remember that this is what it was all about in the beginning. It was all about what do they call them? Narco terrorist was the term they used, and that's why they were able to do what they're doing, and they just kidnapped Maduro because he was a narco terrorist. And now as they get him to the United States, all of a sudden a lot of that stuff's gone. It's out the window. I mean, yeah, they're going to still try him, but not on fentanyl. Did you want to read that other last tweet?
Yeah, I'll just read it. So this person says, I believe they're from the region, I'm not going to commit the stupidity and the blunder of saying don't have an opinion about Venezuela because you're not Venezuelan. I say to the comrades of the keyboard left who from abroad accuse the Bolivarian revolution of betrayal or inconsistency, opine all you want. After all, opinions aren't true or false, they're opinions. You have the right to give your opinions. Can you scroll? I have the right to tell them to go to hell. And, this is a good take because, everybody has the right to give their opinions, but note that these opinions are going to be, completely refuted by a lot of the people that are actually living in these countries, and they're not going to take them well because, here are these people in the West who, what do they have to show for talking about this stuff? So that is that segment. I wanted to address that. So.
Well, let's take a look at Delcy, see what she has to say. This is her talking about drugs. There's also a clip of her getting questions on an NBC exclusive about Corina Marita Machado coming back.
Corina Machado. Yeah.
Did I say it again? Corina Machado, right? MCM.
Yeah.
Take a look. This is Delcy. Your thoughts?
We have, and I will refer right now to the DEA reports that have repeatedly stated that Venezuela is not a relevant in the drug traffic towards the United States.
Materia de droga establece de igual manera que Venezuela no es relevante.
We have also 27 reports from the United Nations stating that Venezuela is not a relevant country when it comes to drug trafficking towards the United States. We know that less than 5% of drugs go through the north of the Caribbean and that 70% come from the equator. We have.
So there it is, fam. She's staying on message too, as well. You know what I'm saying? At the very least, there's also, like I said, there was the other clip of her talking about Machado. If she comes back, maybe that she'll have to face the same consequences that a Juan Guaido had to face. So very interesting. That is Delcy Rodriguez, guys. I think sometimes it's important to see somebody talk, look into their eyes, then maybe form an opinion. A lot of people haven't even seen that woman speak. They're just reading and being keyboard warriors, like that one gentleman said. Guys, we also want to remind you too, everybody, that today we started our fundraiser, and we have had a great start on it so far. We just had some new donations just come in. I wanted to share them, but we're up to $650 right out of the gate. You can see it right there. And some of the comments real quick. We have Edwin Morris gave us $5. Edwin Morris, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. And of course, Daniela Motos Cutter or Motos Cutter, fam. How would you say that?
Probably Motos.
Motos. Danielle, either way, thank you guys so much. And guys, you can go there and you can just share the link. It is givesendgo.com/election integrity matters. Or we'll just put the link in the chat and you could go there at any time and help us out. Like I said, if you can't donate, do us a favor, give us a share. Share it on out there. Please, a snail mail address. I don't know about that. Is there a snail mail address?
You can give one, Pasta. You can give your address or a PO box if you want to be safe. So
I'm a boomer. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm still learning.
That's boomer language.
Snail mail
is boomer. Yeah, that's like regular mail. Like, letters.
So it's not a .com. It's not a .com. It's
no.
Not a link?
Snail mail is not .com. It's like, I mean, I don't know. In my world, in my time, snail mail was like delivering a letter. But yeah.
Shut up, Gabrielle. Don't agree with Fee on this here. Don't take sides. Right? Some of the old school people, Fred Edwards, Gabrielle, Anna Ringwald, Keel Jones was here today, Bad Wolf, Hugo Gutierrez. Thank you guys so much. We love you. We love you all. Jin Do is even in the house. I mean, we're literally We had 113. We had 120 before on the YouTube. And by the way, on the Rumble, we were at 40 something. Now we're at 37. So come on back with us. Hang on out. Have a good time.
We have one subject to go over. Or basically one more.
One more.
We're going to talk about Russia, Ukraine, because a lot of people, again, and I will venture on saying, I do think I'm getting this one right again. A lot of commentators, especially the ones that are influenced, I don't know, by the loud Russia perspective, talk about how, this isn't going to happen. But again, I'm seeing everything that is indicating that Donald Trump wants this, that Russia wants this, and there is division within Russia. And I've talked about this. And if you've seen anything by John Helmer and a few others, they tend to agree with me in terms of how this is positioning itself. There's a lot of division. There's elements in Russia that don't like what the United States and Russia are doing, talking about this. They don't see that it's beneficial to Russia. I tend to agree with those people. Anything that the United States gives Russia doesn't need. I think Russia's in a different position than Venezuela, right? I look at them as somebody that doesn't need to hold themselves to anything with the United States. But the reality is, there is still a desire by some of these people in Moscow to open up diplomacy with the United States, but more than anything, open up the lines of economic cooperation. And this has been long talked about since even before the talks last year. And so those factions are kind of internally clashing. And the reason why it's so hard for many to understand what's going on with this is because you're hearing kind of snippets from both ends, but people don't talk about that. They talk about Russia as a monolith, what the Kremlin says, or what this is just all one united thing. And that's just not the reality. And there's the added layer of the Russian population and how they're feeling. And when you talk about people and countries, you can't just talk about one monolithic statement, because it's more than often not the case. And so having lived in Russia and having ties in Russia, like I have a different perspective, I think, than a lot of people just talking about this or going there a few times and thinking they know what's going on. So on February 13th, there was this article talking about how Ukraine and Russia have definitely confirmed a new round of peace talks with Zelensky. And they're saying it's up to Trump. So they confirmed that they would participate in this third round of U.S. mediated talks next week. So that would be on the 17th and 18th, and this would be in Geneva. There's already been 2 rounds in this trilateral format, meeting with the 3 of them involved in Abu Dhabi. But this one will be on European soil, and it will come days before the 5th year, before we enter the invasion of Ukraine, as they call, enters its 5th year, which I think it's actually incorrect. It would be 4th year.
Yeah, that's 4th year.
So it should be corrected to say 4th year, guys. Come on, CBS. So again, so they're talking about more prisoner exchanges and blah blah blah. But the reality is, there's the whole situation really is going to be focused on the economic cooperation, and I'll get to that in a minute. Now, the TASS, since we're looking at both the Western and Russian sources, the TASS article talks about a potential withdrawal from the Donbass from Ukraine. So according to The Atlantic, Zelensky has said that the basic question in the security guarantee deal with the U.S. remains unresolved, and they may agree to withdraw forces from Donbass. This was said by Zelensky's advisors to The Atlantic. 2 of his advisors told them that Ukraine may be ready to accept the hardest concession of all, giving up control of the land in Donbass. To legitimize such a compromise, the Kiev government is examining the possibility of holding a referendum this spring. According to the report, some members of Zelensky's inner circle are worried that chances for peace are dwindling. At the same time, Zelensky himself told The Atlantic that he would rather take no deal at all than accept a bad one. He once again claimed that he is ready for peace on conditions of a ceasefire and security guarantees. At the same time, Zelensky admitted that an agreement on security guarantees between the United States and Ukraine remains to be finalized, and basic questions related to the document remain unresolved. backtracking on his announcement that the document was 100% ready. So there are rumors that Zelensky is kind of close to being broken. And there's a couple of tweets here that I want to show regarding this whole thing. Because Dmitry Peskov talked about possible U.S.-Russia economic and trade cooperation on the agenda. And he also confirmed that the next meeting between Russia, U.S., and Ukraine is set for next week, and they'll announce the venue. So let's hear what Dmitry Peskov said, the first tweet, Jayme. Oh, no, it's the other one before this one. It's the one I'm highlighting in the doc right now. It's this one. Yeah, that one. You know, there is a group on economic.
Hold on a second. Pause it.
First,
Jayme,
can you pause it
pause
and
it.
take this out so I can read it?
Yeah, pause it. Take it out. The banner. And
put it
It's
low so I can read it. You know, there is a group on economic issues, a working group on our side, and it is headed by my colleague Dmitriev. And indeed, issues of trade and economic cooperation, possible and proposed trade and economic cooperation are on the agenda, and they are being discussed. These discussions, we hope, will continue. At the moment, the de facto situation is such that in practice, until, let's say, a Ukrainian settlement is reached, it is hardly possible to talk about anything specific, and for now, this is limited to discussions. But if moves forward along the path of peaceful settlement, then this can move into a practical dimension. So basically what he's saying is that Kirill Dmitriev is... You can stop it now,
you got it,
Jayme.
yeah.
Basically what he's saying is that Kirill Dmitriev is the head of these economic discussions. Kirill Dmitriev, the businessman, the guy that, you know, is very much in touch with all of the major corporations in the US, the banks sectors, and is in touch, of course, and has had a long-standing relationship with the Trump family and, you know, Kushner and all those people who are also happen to be coincidentally involved in these peace talks. So while Peskov is kind of diminishing the economic aspect of this, that is the major driving force for anything the United States is doing. And it's also a major driving force for what is driving Russia, who is facing inflation in the country, facing fatigue from the war. People said it's been now 4 years almost. This is lasting more than the Great Patriotic War. Let's end the war right now. We want to end it. Like, this is, you know, and now on top of that, they're not doing themselves any favors by targeting Telegram. And I get it. I totally get why they're targeting, you know, WhatsApp, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. But people there see that as an attack on them because a lot of these people use it for work, use it for things, and expats don't like it who are living there because then they can't work like normal. So a lot of these things are happening at once. It puts Russia in a precarious situation. And you're not going to get this assessment from a lot of people online because they're not going to do it. They're not going to talk about this stuff. But, you know, it puts Russia in a position where it's to their benefit to end this war, both for domestic reasons and for international reasons that they're looking to cooperate and expand their economic profile with pretty much anybody. And if the United States can cooperate economically with Venezuela, they're more than willing to do it with Russia. It's just a matter of formulating it with Ukraine and the bullshit. We're even seeing calls for cooperation come from Germany, with Germany cooperating with Russia when it comes to the energy and gas sector. I don't know if you saw that, Pam, but that's been talked about. Sweden and other countries are now openly talking about cooperating with Russia. This is happening. This is coming for right now to a point where it's actually a thing. Anything to say on that so far? I do want to go into what Trump said.
I just when it gets across the finish line, then I'll be happy and be done and over with and stuff. But it does seem like there's an economic bond happening, and I just can't imagine we can stretch ourselves that thin now that we're pivoting to other areas. You know, I am kind of interested to see how Iran would go. You know, if that's going to happen. So, and the connections between China and Russia. So, I'm just kind of curious because it seems like even if we'll end this situation in Ukraine, nothing's over as far as the moves on the chessboard moving forward when it comes to these other countries, including Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, and whatnot. So I'm just very curious to see how things unfold because you see so many people say, "Oh, well, Russia's not really supporting Cuba and Venezuela the way they should." You know, they have this hands-off approach, and that also tells me that they do want to have some type of settlement with the United States. So they're like, "We won't mess in your backyard. Go ahead and do this. Let's end this stuff over here." So
absolutely, they absolutely, and when it comes to Iran as well, they act like a mediator between Israel and the United States, not necessarily just like on behalf of Iran, but as a way to, you know, to have some sort of diplomatic end to this. So Donald Trump has urged Zelensky to act quickly, warning he could miss a major opportunity and stressing the need to move toward peace in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This was as of today. Yeah.
Before summer? Well, Zelensky's going to have to get moving. Russia wants to make a deal, and Zelensky's going to have to get moving. Otherwise, he's going to miss a great opportunity. He has to move.
So,
he's not moving fast enough, fam. We need him to move. By the way, if he doesn't get involved, China. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, so basically what he's saying is, that's it. Like, Russia's going to continue doing what they need to do militarily because the military sector, like I said, doesn't want a deal. They want to win this the military way. They're like, we've done it. We've got to show for it, right? We've got this to show for it. We don't need to negotiate with all these people, you know, like we've got it. Don't worry. But other people are like, oh, come on, we're tired of the war. And blah, blah, blah. And then the Kremlin is like, no, we want to resolve this diplomatically. Let's do that. Let's open up cooperation. And then there's Kirill Dmitriev, right? There's Kirill Dmitriev, and Kirill loves Lara Logan.
Of course he does.
And so she's quoting him, right? Because the BRICS News, which is completely like just a bullshit. I don't know who they are, but they're complete bullshit. Just in Russia's Kirill Dmitriev says U.S. President Trump has been fighting the satanic wing of the liberal West, which he did say that actually. Yeah. But Lara Logan says, now this is precisely what they fear: two powerful Christian nations working together against a global satanic cult. This is exactly the bullshit I'm talking about, that some of these people in Russia are just like swallowing hook, line, and sinker. Oh, we're fighting the global satanic
Christian
cult
nations
together. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, you dumbasses. How the hell is he fighting this? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, it just makes you look like an idiot. What are you talking about? Just because they call themselves Christian, they're over here trafficking kids. And pedophiles are getting away with it. Like, and these pedophiles work in government and are in positions of power. Yeah. How is Donald Trump taking on any of this? Like, it's laughable to me. But he loves Lara Logan. He loves all the right wingers in the United States. You know, he'll talk about Davos, but he'll talk about Davos in the context of like, oh, these are globalists that he has nothing to do with. No, come on. And then so this thing, by the way, came out. Now, it hasn't been confirmed by Russia, but I just want to read it because a lot of this information won't be ever confirmed by Russia until it's like a done deal. So a lot of people were upset about this because they're very surprised and wondering why would Russia even do that. So this is Bloomberg, which I don't trust. A lot of the times they put out fake information like they did with Venezuela and Mexico and a lot of other places, but this is yesterday. So the Kremlin has set out proposals that could see Russia embrace the dollar again as part of a wide-ranging economic partnership with the Trump administration, according to an internal Russian document reviewed by Bloomberg. The high-level memo, which was drafted this year, details 7 points where, in the Kremlin's view, Russian and economic U.S. interests could converge following a deal to end the Ukraine war. It sees the two countries working together to champion fossil fuels over greener alternatives, as well as joint investments in natural gas, offshore oil, and critical raw materials, plus windfalls for U.S. companies. So I just want to reiterate something here, and then I'll get your opinion on it. This is nothing new. One of the peace plans that came out completely laid out that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to do this type of cooperation in the Arctic. I've been talking about this endlessly. This is actually true. That was outlined in several pieces. I don't know what memo Bloomberg got a hold of, but a lot of this is not new. It's one of the things that was put out there and suggested. This seems like something coming directly from Kirill Dmitriev, who is the economics guy and who is interested in doing business. He's a businessman. He wants to do business with the United States. It's as simple as that. They're looking at this practically. They're like, all right, this will be good for Russia. Russia needs to develop the stuff. We got the energy sector. Why don't we work with, Trump, who wants to drill, baby, drill, and we're gonna work on this together. It's a no-brainer. If I'm a businessman, if I'm looking at this pragmatically, I'm Russia. We need to expand our economic interests. We got a whole lot of land and not a whole lot of people. So, they're going to try to take our land because, let's face it, Russia doesn't have a lot of people, but they have a lot of resources. And so they have a lot of resources. They have a lot to put on the table in terms of trade-offs. And so that's why Kirill Dmitriev is there. That's what he's trying to do. And he's leading with that as a means to end the war. And so it's not confusing. It doesn't mean that Russia's abandoning BRICS. It just means that BRICS isn't what you thought it was, and that BRICS isn't this anti-hegemonic counter that everybody thought it was going to be. It just means that it's basically that there's just more people at the table now than there were before, and the United States has recognized that, I think, in a way. Like they're looking at this, trying to talk to all sorts of people because they're trying to figure out how the hell to compete with China, because at the end of the day, this is all about China. And how to be able to really take on China, to be the number ones again. And the reality is, of course, things are looking dire in terms of the dollar, but the dollar is still strong. The dollar's still there. So
and also I would say that BRICS wasn't an alternative, right? Well, it was an alternative. It wasn't like the only other option that they had to go with, that this is it. We're going to break away from the West. We're going to break away from the global market. It just gave them some leverage, to continue to do business with the West, to continue to make sure that the dollar is very prevalent in their society. My question to you is, though, we're talking about all this possibilities for a deal to come to the table. Donald Trump is pushing Zelensky. Weapons are still being sent over. Doesn't that still clout this whole situation and still make the Russian Federation go, okay, listen, they're still sending weapons to kill Russians?
Why? That's war. Russia is still going and going after Ukraine, right? So of course they're going to send weapons too. Like they're still at war. Like this has nothing to do with the war. Continues until both sides decide the war will stop. They're not gonna stop. Like if the U.S. is still sending weapons, Russia's going to continue attacking, and Russia continues attacking, the U.S. is going to continue.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that this is just, that's why it almost feels theatrical at this point, and people's lives are on the line. But it does feel theatrical. Like, what exactly is the point of this war if you're all gonna, talking about these negotiations and stuff, and people are still fighting? People are fighting for different reasons. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, there are people there who believe in their pride and fighting for the Russian people of the Donbass. And then there's the other interests that are looking at this and saying, all right, well, we got to stand our ground, but what are we going to get out of this war? We need to get some sort of economic gain. Yeah. We need to make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes. There's talk that Lavrov is not happy with some of the way things are being handled, and so there's a lot of things that I think are confusing for a lot of people, because they don't understand how Russia is set up, and like how not all of these sectors communicate with each other or are in unison with each other. But you have to understand who is the Putin's envoy, and that's Kirill Dmitriev. And there's a reason why Kirill Dmitriev is leading these negotiations. And the reason is because these negotiations are looking at the economy first. They're not looking at the military even first. They're looking at the economy. That's why this guy's there. Otherwise, you'd have a military guy at the helm, or you'd have a, Lavrov at the helm. But you have this guy, Kirill Dmitriev, making negotiations, meeting with Jared Kushner, meeting with Stephen Witkoff, meeting with these people that are the same people that are dealing with the Iran situation, dealing with the Middle East. And that tells you how they're trying to look at things. And they're trying to look at things economically. So
it's funny because a lot of people thought when Putin got in, he would be looking out for his oligarchs, but he became a nationalist. And everybody thinks in this situation that he'd be a nationalist through and through, but he's paying attention to his oligarchs. It's like, Dmitriev is going to represent that type of people, that economics, that they want to be a part of. So it's kind of very interesting to see where they're at. Is that it? Do we have any more posts?
No. Well, that's it for that.
Yeah.
Section.
Well, this is not a section really quickly. This is the very end. I want to, if we can throw up again the share the Give, Send, Go. That's just a poster of it, Jayme. Let me go get the actual one that has the money up there and stuff. I starred there you go. You can see we've had 6, refresh that. We've had 7 donators right now, and the last one, I believe, was a 30 spot. Where's it at? Ohan Jorgen. Thank you, Ohan. Tweedledee, Tweedledum. $30 the USDT. Thanks for your work, ladies and gentlemen. Gentleman, of course. Well, thank you so much, guys. And if you do want to help out, we are going to post a link in the chat. So therefore, you can go and help us out. If you cannot donate, that's okay. What we need you to do then is to share the links. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your Twitter. Fam, go share it. You hit that big share button there, that big green share button, and it will give you options of where you can share it. But that's a great first day. We want to thank you all out for coming, watching us today, and helping us out. That's great. So go along and share. One of the reasons why we need to continue to get this media going, by the way, Jayme had to share this. He was laughing hysterically when he saw this. I saw his little. Today is Friday the 13th, fam. I know you love your horror films. What do Italians eat on Friday the 13th? Fettuccine Alfredo. Oh. Wah, wah, wah. Vegan succubus. How you been, girl? Good to see you. Good afternoon and happy Friday the 13th, fam. Been a long time. Hope you're doing well. Alfredo. Stupid.
That's very corny.
One of the reasons why you need us is because the consistency. The reasons we never, ever lose our principles, right? We always make sure that we're on the mark, and no matter what, we're not going to sell out for anybody for a paycheck. And unfortunately, the majority of the media, independent, which we are now calling the alternative mainstream media because they're echoing the same talking points, do the same thing. So you think somebody breaks off, they're not working for a major news network, they're independent now, and no, they're not going to be okay. Here's Laura Logan talking about what's going on. Now, like I said before, we're just going to show the video, right? Go to the video. This is her independent podcast, and you can crank the volume.
Independent.
There's been nonstop coverage of this Guthrie kidnapping going on. One woman was kidnapped. She's the mother of a news analyst on, I think, a leftist
NBC
news outlet.
or?
I believe it's Savannah Guthrie, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
I don't even know. These people are interchangeable. But she's been missing. And about 80% of the news cycle has been taking up on this woman being kidnapped. What should we be talking about? Shouldn't we be talking about what's going on over here or what's going on over there? A lot of us have been pointing out that some people think it's a psyop. It definitely is distraction porn. But what do those who are bought off or those who are useful idiots, what do they say? Well, we can just simply look to Laura Logan. Since Donald Trump has gotten in, she's become a complete team player. She's no longer a journalist. She's, lost all her principles. So take a look at this. Jayme, the volume.
Oh. Why can't we hear it?
You can't hear it?
No.
No.
I can't hear it. Try it now.
Okay, I guess we'll have to see. That's odd.
Oy. Try now.
Unusual situation going on with Iran. I mean, I've been a journalist for more than 35 years, and I have never seen a time when you have a government that is murdering its own people in such numbers, and it's getting so little attention. It's very odd to me. You know, I normally that would be wall-to-wall coverage instead of, for example, the Nancy Guthrie disappearance, right? That's a valid story, a very sad story. My heart breaks for the Guthrie family and for Savannah Guthrie. But that's getting, you know, wall-to-wall coverage, like even on Fox News. It's nonstop, one show after another, special reports and so on and so on. And yet there's barely a mention and very often no mention at all of what's happening on the ground in Iran. I also think that it's an indication of something you've heard me talk about a lot. With the rise of independent media, we are becoming blind in the rest of the world because removing the money of the corporation from behind reporting means independent journalists just do not have the money to go all over the place or to have a foreign bureau or whatever. And we're starting to feel the effects of that. It's one thing to say, oh, well, we've got citizen journalism and we've got independent media and we've got social media. Yeah, great. Well, look what happened in Iran. They shut everything down. Now you could say, okay, well, if there were foreign journalists there, and there probably are some, that they're being shut down too, but at least they're independent eyewitnesses who can come out of Iran and talk about what they witnessed. You know, that's not happening now. And so I think that
that's enough. I don't want to listen too much to her. She makes me, you know, nauseated, nauseous. She makes me. It's just, I mean, and not only is it the fact that it's independent media now is failing because they don't have the money. So now it's just screwed all over the place. But the fact is, all these people, they're killing women and children in Iran, and nobody's reporting on it. I mean, the next thing I put up right there, put this up here, the next thing up here. What drives me crazy is that this was even in the Wall Street Journal. U.S. smuggled thousands of Starlink terminals into Iran during the protest. The U.S. smuggled thousands of Starlink terminals into Iran in the January to support the anti-government protesters inside the country, the Wall Street reported on Thursday. Now, you can read that paragraph right there, and that should give you an idea of what's going on. Same old for the U.S. So when you sit out there and you say, oh, this government is just indiscriminately killing their citizens, but you're not reporting the whole truth, something as simple that it was in the fucking Wall Street Journal. Man, do we need some honest reporting out there nowadays. I don't know what's motivating her. I don't know if she's a useful idiot. I don't know if she's a paid propagandist, but we see a lot of this, fam, and it's disheartening. So that's why I am so thankful to you all today. It was amazing. For all of you guys who put money in this Give, Send, Go, give us the ability to get back out there for you guys. We want to continue to do this work for you, and we will. As long as you put us in a position to succeed, we'll succeed for you, fam. So that's all I got to say, but we won't sell out. Otherwise, we'd have lavish.
Yeah.
We're back here.
Yeah, she's
doing this stuff. Go ahead.
Well, you know, again, she's using independent media as if she's part of it, and she doesn't get paid and amplified by the right to talk about bullshit about Iran, you know, and then kind of perpetuate the notion of, oh, Iran is, you know, a dictatorship and all this stuff. Like, it's dishonest. And you know what? They did this the moment they saw that their news shows, their podcasts that they put out. Remember when they put out a bunch of podcasts, CNN and all those people?
Yeah.
They failed. Like, they were terrible at this stuff. Like, they didn't know how to genuinely and authentically talk to people. So when they failed at that, what they did was they captured independent media. They threw money at some people. They ended up trying to push people who were good at it to mimic their lines, whether it was Democrats or Republicans, and to promote the same type of BS. And now you have a class of alternative mainstream media where people are just, regurgitating safe things that are seemingly anti-establishment, but not really. And you have Nick Fuentes as a part of that. The guy is number one at getting people to talk about, riling people up to make himself look like he's a sort of anti-Zionist, but he's not. Like, he's just doing it for the clicks. And then you have the Young Turks, right? Oh, they came around. No, they didn't. They just saw where the money was pointing. They've seen where all this is headed. And you can make a lot of money if you get people riled up and if you just say very controversial shit. You can sit here and yell and scream and talk about all this stuff like in a controversial manner and just sit there and bash, Jews every 5 seconds. But is that really like, does that make you an anti-imperialist? Does it make you an anti-Zionist? Does that mean you're actually pro-Palestinian, that you're actually going to defend them against the empire? No, you're just cashing in on whatever, sector you want to cash in on. And that's the problem with a lot of people, is they don't know how to differentiate genuine authenticity and truth telling and true journalism between that, and which is just the attention getting surface level type of crap which sells. And a lot of these people have huge amplification on Twitter, while the rest of us are getting censored on every platform. And that's exactly why we're running this campaign. And it's not a lot. Actually, it's not a lot of money. I mean, journalists get paid millions and millions of dollars, or make millions, or make tens of thousands and thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars, let's put it that way, to give less than valuable information that they're told how to do it. One of the things I missed about when I was working for RT was editing, deciding which stories I wanted to put up, deciding the narrative I wanted to take, deciding it, and not having to dumb it down, because my audience isn't dumb. And that kind of went away. And that's one of the things I miss about being independent, is like you get full control to produce the news you want to produce. You get full control to take the narrative the way you want to take it. But for me, it's always been about the truth. Like, what is the truth, and how to tell it in that sort of way. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's precisely why we're here, and we're asking you to help us for the next few months, because this is basically us asking you to support our journalism, so that way we don't have to go to XYZ company or XYZ person to fund us with, yes, but you can't talk about this, or yes, but you can't say that, or yes, but you can only say this much about that. And that's the reality, is all of these people that are amplified, I'm telling you, one way or another, are getting paid by somebody, whether it's state or whether it's like an entity that is paying them tons of money. They're being bound by that money. They're not allowed to talk about certain things because of this money. And we don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
So
I try to make an offer to Sirius Radio if they want to take me on. I told them, listen, I am still an anti-Zionist, but I won't talk about it all the time. It won't be the only thing I talk about, but that's just about the only offer I'll make, because I got a lot of other things to talk about. But I'm not going to change my opinions and what I believe is right or what's wrong. And thank you very much, by the way, for Carmen Rothschild, not a Rothschild. It says, thank you. Make sure to mention your Give, Send, and Go every time you're online, and we will. Monthly reoccurring donations would help too as well. And guys, there it is. Once again, you can I'll share it here again. Jayme, I don't know if you had it up, my bad, but put it up. There it is. We wanted to get to 8 for the day. We got 7, $680. That is really awesome. And like I said, the first on the list is probably, more than likely, Peru. We're going to try to go there first, and then we'll see. We also have Colombia that's on the list. Oh, we got an 8th one. Hugo Gutierrez. We knew we'd get number 8. I told you, fam. 8 today was the magic number. 8 little chipmunks sitting on a branch, eat a lot of acorns on my uncle's ranch. There he is, 8. Hugo Gutierrez. A minute ago. Thank you. We appreciate all the hard work you do. Give us the truly independent news. Thank you so much, Hugo. That is awesome. And remember, guys, you can share it out there. You can get it out there. That's a great first day, but we got to keep it going. There's expenses on the roads, and we also want to make sure that we could produce our stuff to get it out there. So camera guy, all that kind of thing. Thank you so much for laughing at my corny jokes. Jayme likes the corny jokes. Fettuccine Alfredo. Okay. But go ahead, guys. Thank you so much. You can't be serious. We want to thank you all for coming on out. Fam, you got anything to talk about before we get on out of here?
No, just look out for more stuff from me on my Substack. I will be doing more there. And yeah, I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for the Give, Send, Go. And, as Pasta said, we're going to continue being consistent, telling the truth. And again, also taking a lot of slaps in the face for doing so. And it's rare to have that, but believe me, like if you see a lot of funds, a lot of money, a lot of support, it's very hard to do it independently. So we hope that, we have your support, and the more support we have, the more things we'll be able to do in terms of investigative reporting, in terms of coverage, in terms of different things. And so we hope to be able to do that. So
yes, we're going to try like the Dickens to get out there wherever we can, get on the ground. I want to thank everybody also too as well for checking out my Substack. I don't do them too often, but I got a really great response from this one. Definitely was the most read Substack I've ever put out there. My experiences in Minnesota. I was thinking about doing a documentary because I have 95% of the work done. Just need to do some voiceovers, maybe piecing it all together and getting it out there. But I don't know. We'll see. We got to take our money in and use our resources wisely. And we want to make sure we stay on top of the news. So as things go by, if they go by and they're gone, so be it. In the news cycle, it turns over pretty quickly. So we want to stay on top of things so we can bring you the actual breaking news or the news, up-to-date news. So we're going to continue to do that. My name is Craig Pasta Jardula. I'm here with Fiorella Isabel and Jayme CheeseSlice on the ones and twos. With all you crazy knuckleheads out there watching us for so long and supporting us for so long, from Fred Edwards to Gabrielle to Jerry Alatolo to Skywalk, whatever that last name is, Naybones, yada, 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 all of you out there. We love you. We'll see you next Monday. Truth out. Bye-bye.
Bye.